Hey guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. Today we're back over on our YouTube account. Now the patch notes were up on the test server a little bit earlier today, and we have a new hero. Now it is only going to be one new hero, which I know I absolutely butchered the name, and I have for a majority of time. I think between Vulcan and I, we have probably murdered everybody in here, or we have sub names in here for the Tiny Tank or the Ninja Turtle, whatever it may be. But overall, it is Adrian and Elise are the two, or essentially one new Lightbearer hero that we're getting. A lot of players are still speculating if they're dimensional heroes. The patch notes say it is going to be a Lightbearer hero, and I believe at this point it is one, which of course is going to make a huge difference because now you can continue to build out Eugene, but we also know that there is going to be a swap event in there, and it says the swap event is going to be kind of unlocked through time, and you're going to have the ability to swap 4 times. Now the question comes, and a lot of questions that I actually got today, is who are we looking to swap? Now, of course, it kind of sucks because they're not giving us the ability to reset a hero, as in going in and let's say looking at Gwen, plus 30 signature item, engraving, whatever. They're not giving us the ability to reset a hero where I could literally just get the resources back for this hero. They're giving us the ability to swap a hero, which means you're going to have a hero to swap them to based on the new heroes that you have. So if there is a hero that you're summoning for, if there's a hero that you're building up, you're going to go ahead and want to do the swap for them versus building them out and spending your resources when it comes to actually building them. And again, I wanted to clarify this because I got a ton of questions about it today. But also something to remember, and I want to run through the factions, kind of looking at the heroes that we could see some of these swaps for. But thinking of the tower, now that is something to remember, depending on where you are within the King's Tower. I don't want, and we have seen this before, where a lot of players will come in here, they will swap some of the heroes that we actually have built out in here, meaning that it is incredibly difficult to make progression within the tower because the heroes now do not possess the signature items, because you moved it back to a 10 or a 20, whatever it may be. So you have to look at the heroes, and you have to keep in mind the heroes that you're not using for your tower progression. And also, when we have 4 swaps, I would really recommend, again, kind of breaking it down to the heroes that we have within AFK Arena, is probably limiting that to 1 hero of each faction, or if you possibly built a much older hero that you do not use at all. So again, I want to run through, kind of identify 1 or 2 heroes that I don't really use at all, which I know there are probably a couple players that still do use it, but let's kick this off with our Lightbearer faction. So looking in here, even our top row, they are all used. We have Palmer in here, we have Scarlet in here. Second row, Guineas is used for sure. Rosaline is used. Rowan is kind of a sub in there. Sonya, not seeing a lot of use, but again, when it comes to the Lightbearer tower, can work incredibly well in formations. Now, ultimately, she might be one that I would consider swapping. And also, you have to remember that because this is a swap, I don't want to use heroes that have less than that plus 30 signature item, because I want to make sure that we are getting the most for the heroes that we're swapping. Now, in addition, if you built some of the heroes up, I know I've seen a couple where I've seen different Lightbearers that are built out to a 40 signature item. We've also seen Titus, a few other heroes that are built up to that plus 40 signature item. There's not really a need. So thinking again, kind of bigger picture, heroes that I don't use at all, even within the tower progression, because heroes like Sonya, I still do use in a couple different formations. I still do use Hendrik in quite a few formations, but when it comes to Gwen, I do not. So again, she's one that I am going to tag for possibly doing the reset on or the swap for that plus 30 signature item, because again, this is one that we really don't use. And the reason I don't is we have Thane, we have Lucius, we have Scarlet, we have the awakened version of Belinda. We have all of these heroes that are big, high damage dealers. Gwen is not going to be one that I'm going to use. And then, of course, looking at our lower levels, we don't have anyone at 30. We don't have anyone down here at 30. And again, Sonya and Hendrik. Sonya, probably not as much. Hendrik, I do use on a very regular basis. Estrilda, we still see her in a couple different formations. So I would be hesitant to really replace or swap her as well. Now, looking at our Maulers, kind of the same. Thinking of heroes that I don't use at all. Now, Skarath I still use. Salakai I still use. Granite and Taylene I still use. the original version of Sophia. Now, this would probably be a good one to swap. Again, when you're looking at formations, when I'm thinking of the 3 towers that I really run, she is one that I do not use. And also remember, because I'm running 3 towers, we need 15 heroes. So, I mean, to have what, 20, 25 heroes in the faction, we need 15 of these to be built. Even looking down here, we have some really no signature item there, but we do have some 10s down here. We have some 20s down here. Those 2 we kind of use. That would probably be the only one that I would do in here. Drez is still used for quite a bit. Crescio is still used. The Invade, which I don't even have Scrag. Look at that, guys. Even now, we don't even have Scrag at that 30. But overall, I might even swap for Vika. Vika could be a decent hero to swap to. Not really swapping from, but again, a majority of these, the only one that I would choose, possibly if I had like a Satrana built, I would possibly looking at a swap. But again, when you start getting into the lower tiers, if you had a Verk, if you had a K-Sauce, if you had Inoki, if you had Warwick built out, because I know a lot of players built out Warwick, that would probably be a very good swap to do within that Mauler faction. So looking at our Wilders, now these, of course, a lot of heroes are being used within here. And again, looking at a couple, we need 15 heroes. So based on the build of all of these, we know the top line pretty much used. And of course, Raccoon not seeing as much utility as he did once upon a time. However, when it comes to the tower progression, starting to get into multiple teams, 100% absolutely he is going to be used. Even looking down here, we still see Peanut in formations. We see Saurus in formations. Althus is being used. Oku might be one that I would consider swapping. But even when you start looking again, kind of at this lower tier, if you built out right here, looking at Namora, looking at Gorvo, looking at Respin, Solus, Kaz, Cirrus, Almas, even looking at Pippa only needs the 20 to really be effective. And the same with Tassie, really only the 20 to be effective in there. So you have a couple options within there that you could definitely swap, which again, you could find some of them kind of in a niche formation. But as we continue to get more heroes to AFK Arena, and I'm not sure if the swaps are going to be timed as well, which I'm hoping they do something where they're actually just going to give us the swap, possibly in a swap scroll or something of that nature, that we can keep in the bag for future heroes that are going to be released. Now, looking at our Graveborn, again, you have to really systematically think about the heroes and the ones that we're swapping. So thinking of heroes like, even looking in here, because we do have, remember, 15 heroes, most of these are being used quite a bit, even looking at some of the buffers, looking at Damon. But probably looking at Isabella, she was kind of niche because of the ability she had. She would be one that I could possibly see swapping. Torn, absolutely. Shamira. And then, of course, any of the other ones kind of down a little bit lower. When you look at Nara, when you look at the original version of Shamira, even looking at Fane, a few of these you could probably swap again, just kind of based on the utility, based on where they're being used within tier lists. It could be a good hero swap. Now, looking at the Celestials, now these, of course, are what a lot of players do invest in, and then when the hero kind of falls off, they do fall off. Now, in the tower, this one, we do need 10 heroes, so looking even at our top 10 heroes, there's a few that I would not recommend swapping at all, which, of course, those are the support heroes because of the utility that we do see within them. But again, looking at some of the heroes that we could absolutely swap, Wukong for sure. He is one, unfortunately, we haven't seen him used really forever. But even when I think of formations that we have today, I do use Moriel every now and then. I do use Zafriel every now and then for even the PvP aspect, but some of the tower formations, we do see it. But again, we have Valkyrie in here. We have the awakened version of Athalia. We have Liberta. So I feel like damage-wise, we're probably good enough to go through here. And unfortunately, as much as I like Orthos, it seems like he is slowly falling out of formations. So we might not see a lot of really dedication in or swap in there. Then, of course, the awakened version of Taylene, I would keep her just because, again, utility-wise, SP effect to have her in there is going to make a big difference. Now, looking at our hypo heroes. So, of course, in here, there are a few that really stick out. When we look at, like, Meatball right here, Mizoth. When you look at Leofric, absolutely two that you could swap and probably never look back or never regret. But also looking at a couple other ones in here. And again, thinking that we need 10 heroes in here. some of the ones like Valoris. Now, Valoris, of course, built, she was used in the Cursed Realm and the Nightmare Corridor once upon a time. At this point, she could be one that you could probably swap because I don't see her utility really going up anymore than kind of where we do have it. Now, of course, Zekas is another one that I would swap without a doubt. Now, of course, Olgath I would keep, a couple other ones just because of the skills and abilities that they do possess to go ahead and swap those. So there was also a question that came up when it came to these dimensional heroes. Now, when it comes to the dimensional heroes, can we swap dimensional heroes? I don't know. I don't think it went into that much clarification. But if you're swapping dimensional heroes, so let's say, for instance, Yukio right here with the plus 30 signature item, if I used space emblems to build him all the way up to the plus 30, are we going to get space emblems back? I'm assuming the answer to that is no. They might refund us in red chests or just go ahead, straight swap for swap, which means it could be beneficial to have or build out some of these heroes utilizing the space emblems just to do the swap when it comes about. That way you're not using those. Now, of course, keep that with a grain of salt because there are a ton of heroes within the dimensional faction that do need higher signature items. But again, looking at the heroes that we really don't use, looking at Joker with the plus 30 signature item, looking at Arthur, looking at Yukio, really not used anywhere. And I really feel like even at this point, if they do release or when they release that dimensional tower, not going to see a lot of utility because I'm assuming it's only going to be 10 heroes that you need in there. And as we continue to kind of add more into AFK Arena, I feel like, again, they're not going to have quite the same utility that we see. So, all right, guys, so I want to know who you're swapping. So I think off the bat, when they release the event, when the patch notes come up, which we're going to have to check it out tomorrow, they're going to give us 1 or 2 swaps. Don't know, again, if they're going to be timed. Don't know exactly how this is going to work, but we're going to have to see exactly what this looks like for the swap, who you're going to swap in there. Let me know in the comments who you're thinking to go ahead and swap because, again, this was a question that came up with the patch notes this morning, and I really have been thinking about it all day while I was at work, exactly who I would swap out of here based on having them built to that plus 30 signature item without the utilization of them being used in the tower. But all right, guys, so that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and as always, thank you guys for watching.